What in the world does a peach mango pie have to do with Filipino food? Well, clearly you've never been to Jollibee. The US colonized the Philippines in the early 1900s, and that is why pie is on the menu. Jollibee is a very popular fast food chain in the Philippines, and they serve this delicious peach mango pie. However, I just think it's way too sweet, so I was like, let's make it at home. And I made it as simple as possible. First, get 1 pound of mangoes. I got these frozen mango chunks that are deliciously ripe when defrosted. Chop these up into little bite-sized chunks, about 1/4 of their current size, and then set aside. Now we're gonna chop 1 pound of peaches. You can also use frozen or fresh peaches, but I had these cling peaches from a jar available, so I used these. Chop them into bite-sized pieces as well, and then place back into the bowl. In a much larger bowl, add 1/4 cup of cornstarch, 1/2 cup of sugar, I'm using coconut sugar, a pinch of salt, and about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Mix these very well to remove any lumps. The 1/2 cup of sugar is just enough to boost the sweetness of the peaches and the mangoes, but if you like your pies a lot sweeter, I'd go for at least 1 cup of sugar. Dump the peaches and mangoes into the dry mixture, and then add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or lemon. These acids will brighten up the flavor and add just a little tang. Mix them all up until the dry and wet ingredients are fully combined. It should resemble pie filling. Next, we're gonna use a pre-made pie crust that I bought from the store. It's not hard to make pie crust at home, but my thought was that getting a pre-bought pie crust will increase your likelihood of actually making these pies at home. If you do use store-bought pie crusts, make sure you roll these out gently. They are definitely gonna crack open at the edges, but all you gotta do is pinch the dough closed and they're good as new. Next, take a round cutter. You're gonna cut out as many circles as you can from the two doughs. I use this blender bottle attachment since I'm baking at my sister's place and she doesn't have cutters, but it works. You can use a glass or whatever else you can find to make this happen. Okay, we're gonna start filling the pies now. Don't try to overfill the crusts or else the juices will leak out. I learned this the hard way, but it eventually so worked out. At this point, I would separate the stacked dough from each other if I were you so they don't stick together as the crust warms up in room temperature. I paid for that later. So remember, for your next pies, leave enough space around the edges of the pie crust so it can seal properly. This will make your pie making so much easier. Another thing to keep in mind, you can lightly flour your work surface to keep the dough from sticking to the countertop, but I just used the flat side of a knife to scrape it free. Finish up the rest of the pies and then stick these in the fridge to chill for about 15 minutes. Nothing goes to waste in my house. Grab the pie dough scraps from earlier and then do your best to combine it again and then roll it out into one big shape that can fit your chosen container. My chosen container is this bread pan casserole dish thing that I found at my sister's place. Pour out the rest of the filling on top of the dough and then chill this for another 15 minutes as well. After chilling, beat an egg to brush the tops of the pie. This is to get a beautiful brown finish after they're done baking. Make sure your oven is preheated at 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're gonna bake the small pies for 35 minutes, and then the big pie is gonna bake for 45 minutes. We're gonna flip both of them halfway through to bake evenly on both sides. Oh yeah, these ended up looking pretty decent. I was surprised. Allow these to cool just a little bit before digging in so that the crust can crisp up nicely. Some people say you have to wait an hour for them to cool down, and I say you're crazy. 5 minutes is enough. Okay, let's be honest. How can you resist eating these when they're fresh and hot straight out of the oven? You can't. The one thing you gotta keep in mind is to keep the pie crusts chilled at all times. This ensures that you will have flaky crusts just like these. They were so good. I hope you try this recipe at home. You don't have to have peach and mango as your filling, but if you were to change it up, let me know what fillings you will put in the pie in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Bye!